Good morning, everyone. I am Jyotiprasad Chatterjee, teaching sociology in Barakpur Rashtraguru Surendranath College since more than a decade. Today we will be dealing with concept. It comes under the paper on sociological research methods. So today we would be dealing with a very rudimentary aspect of knowledge gathering, acquiring, and of course application. So today our task, or what we have set for our discussion today, is concept, a very rudiment of sociological research methods. So let's start with concept. As I have just mentioned, that concept constitutes quite a rudimentary aspect of what actually is known as knowledge. So it constitutes an important aspect of research, the primary goal of which is to acquire, gather, and apply knowledge. Today our source material would be Methods in Social Research, a very famous book co-authored by W.E. Guri and P.K. Hatt. This book was written in 1952 and it came out from McGraw-Hill, New York, and we will be focusing on chapter 5 of this book. So to start with, we must know what actually we mean by concept, or what actually is meant by concept. Primarily, concept refers to symbols of the phenomena we are studying. So the phenomena we are focusing, so the phenomena we are trying to investigate, concepts basically represents the, or concept is a symbolic representation of that phenomena. It might also refer to the ideas that represent the phenomenon in question, or the phenomenon we are trying to investigate. Concepts may as well represent the ideas of that phenomena. It might also refer certain abstract elements representing classes of phenomena within the field of study. So it either represents a single phenomena or a group of phenomena which falls under the field of study we are interested or we are engaged in. So concepts may imply or may represent certain abstract elements of those phenomena. Now, how this abstraction can be done? So we abstract from observed events. The events which we come across, we can abstract from those events through observation or through our sense experiences of those phenomena. So concept symbolizes phenomenon. That is the primary definition of concept, that concept symbolizes phenomena. It is not the phenomenon itself, it is a symbolic representation of the phenomenon. So it should not be confused with phenomenon itself, because as I have just mentioned, that concept is not the phenomenon itself, so it should not be confused with phenomenon itself. It is a representation, symbolic representation of the phenomena in question. For example, the institutions. I mean, in sociology we study several institutions. So all these institutions or any particular institution may be a concept, because it is an abstraction of the characteristics of all the institutions, or all the characteristics which all the institutions have in common. So we come across the institutions, we observe the institutions, and then we abstract or extract certain common characteristics of all those institutions, and in this way we can form a concept of social institution. So these characteristics, these may be either directly observable or it can be easily measured. So it's not that always we can experience, I mean we can see the phenomenon in question, either we can directly observe it, or if it is not directly observed, at least we can measure it. In that way, we can abstract the characteristics of those phenomena, and then through those abstractions we form a kind of symbolic representation, and that constitutes the concept itself. So, concept is an abstraction, or concepts can be studied as abstraction, or concepts can be regarded to be an abstraction. So, there is a tendency to assume that concepts actually exist as phenomena, and these leads to many errors. So, as I have just mentioned in the last slide, that concepts should not be confused with phenomena itself, but there is a tendency, I mean there is a kind of well-grained tendency to assume that concepts actually exist as phenomena, and this leads to many errors. This tendency is known as fallacy or error of reification. So, this tendency, I mean confusing the concept with the phenomena itself, this tendency is known as fallacy or error of reification. Now, what is this fallacy, or what is this error of reification? Look, the fallacy of reification is treating abstraction as if they are actual phenomena. So, this is the fallacy, or this is the error, or this is the fallacy of reification, that we are treating the abstraction as if they are the actual phenomena. Now, to avoid this error, the relationship between concept and fact is to be understood. So, what is the relationship between concept and the fact it represents symbolically? So, this relationship between concept and fact needs to be understood or needs to be studied. So, this is the way we can come out of this fallacy of reification. Otherwise, there is a tendency, I mean there is a kind of well developed tendency, or there is a general tendency to assume that the concept and the phenomena are the same thing. But the issue is this, that we need to be very careful about their distinction. Concepts are symbolic representation of the phenomenon. Concepts are not the phenomenon itself. So, that way, but the tendency is there to confuse this, and this creates the error or fallacy of reification. Now, this reification or fallacy of reification is the tendency to consider the abstractions as the phenomenon itself. So, we should be aware about this. Now, as we have mentioned in the last slide, that to come out or to I mean rectify this error of reification, we need to be clear about the distinction between concept and fact, and of course, if there is any interrelationship between concept and fact. So, what are those interrelationships between concept and fact? Look, concept and fact both are abstractions, not phenomenon itself. So, concepts are also abstracted from the phenomenon, and facts are also some sort of abstractions of the phenomena of the phenomena in question. But although they both are abstractions of the phenomena, but the difference between concept and fact is that facts state empirical relationships and phenomena. So, facts state some empirical relationships. Empirical means which you can experience. So, facts state empirical relationships or the phenomenon, but concepts symbolize this. So, concepts symbolize these empirical relationships between the phenomena. This is the distinction between fact and concept, that fact state the empirical relationships and concept symbolizes these empirical relationships. So, fact is stated as a relationship between concepts. So, naturally fact is stated as a relationship between concepts. We will come with some examples later on, that fact is stated as a relationship between concepts. So, fact is a logical construct of concepts. So, that way concept symbolizes the relationship between some empirical relationship between the phenomena, and facts state those empirical relationships. So, basically through facts we try to develop a relationship between concepts, that how the concepts are related, and fact states those relationships and concept symbolizes those relationships. So, fact can be considered as a logical construct of concepts. Now, how concepts can be developed, or how concepts are developed, and this is known as the process of conceptualization, that how concepts are formed, how concepts are developed, and this is the very process of conceptualization. Through conceptualization, or through the process of conceptualization, we actually develop and form the concepts. So, conceptualization is the process of abstracting and generalizing sense impressions. So, we observe the phenomena, then we abstract some common characteristics of the phenomena in question, and through this through in this very process of abstraction, we apply our sense impressions. So, through our sense impressions we try to abstract the common characteristics of the phenomena in question, and then we try to generalize these abstractions. So, this is the method of or process of conceptualization, that we first observe certain phenomena, then try to abstract the common characteristics out of this, and then try to generalize this abstraction. So, this is known as the process of conceptualization, and through this process we try to develop, or we develop the concepts. So, conceptualization is a kind of say process through which we try to manipulate, study, organize and isolate the properties of objects. As I have just mentioned, that we apply our sense impressions, or we observe the phenomena under study, and then we abstract certain common characteristics of those phenomena, and then we try to generalize. So, through in this process of generalization, often we try to manipulate or study or organize and then isolate the properties of objects. So, this is the process of conceptualization, that we must be very clear that concepts do not exist naturally or as it is. Concepts need to be developed, and in this development of the process we often try to manipulate, study and organize, and at the same time isolate the properties of objects. So, this process, that means that focusing on the concepts, focusing on the phenomena and then organizing it, manipulating it, this always takes place at the level of thought. So, at the level of thought we try to organize the observable properties or common characteristics of the phenomena under study, and we try to manipulate. All this takes place at the level of thought. So, concepts or conceptualization, the very process of conceptualization through which we develop concepts, this conceptualization or the process of conceptualization operates at the level of thought. So, thinking requires naming such properties. Once we can isolate or abstract the properties, then we need to name such properties, and this is what we know as conceptualization, that we give different names to such properties, maybe some institutions or associations, organizations, community, these all are concepts, and through observation we isolate certain observable characteristics of the phenomena which we have just mentioned under study, and then we try to assign or give certain names to those properties, and then it comes up as a concept. Through that names we come to understand the phenomena itself. So, that way through thinking we try to give, or we assign certain names to such properties, and this is the process of conceptualization, that we through our sense impressions or sense or through our experience or through observation, we try to abstract certain common characteristics of the phenomena which we want to study, and then we try to organize those properties, we try to manipulate those properties, and this takes place at the level of thinking. And after isolating or after abstracting the common characteristics, we give or assign certain names to such properties, and this constitutes the concepts as such. So this is the process of conceptualization, through which we come up with certain designations, certain names to such to imply such properties. So that way thinking requires naming such properties, and this process of naming the properties constitutes conceptualization, and through this we define the concept, we try to form the concepts. So conceptualization is very basic to thought, or is essential to thought. So without thought or thinking, you cannot conceptualize. That means concepts do not exist naturally. You need to apply your thought to the phenomena under question, and then only you can abstract the common properties of the phenomena, and then you can name such properties, and then it constitutes the concept. So there is a kind of deep relationship between thinking and conceptualization. Now science is also a form of abstract manipulation. It also heavily depends on conceptualization. Science, any sort of science, maybe social science, natural science, physical science, whatever, science as such is a form of abstract manipulation. It heavily depends on conceptualization. Science deals with so many concepts. Without concepts, we cannot engage in science. So any sort of science depends on the process of conceptualization. This awareness can help the scientist to avoid the error of reification. Since science depends heavily on thought and on conceptualization, because there is a kind of intricate relationship between, or intimate relationship between thinking and conceptualization. So science, which heavily depends on concepts, so science is also intimately linked to thinking or thought. Now applying this thinking or thought, we can isolate the concept and the phenomena, or we can differentiate between the concepts and the phenomena itself. So through this awareness that we need to keep or we need to distinguish between the concept and the phenomena represented by the concepts, through this awareness of the distinction between these two, that means between the concept and the phenomena it represents, the scientist can avoid the error of reification. So it all comes to the issue of definition, that how do we name the concepts. So what we have seen today, that certain phenomena which we want to study, through the application of our thinking, we try to isolate certain common characteristics or try to abstract certain common characteristics of those phenomena, and then we try to assign certain names to those common properties, and this naming constitutes concepts, or the entire process is known as conceptualization. So ultimately it depends on the process of naming, the process of manipulating, organizing the common properties. So this naming, that means trying to designate some properties as something, so that way it creates a sort of definition. We try to define the concepts. Basically we try, through naming we try to define the concepts, but this is not a very easy task, because there are certain problems in definition itself. So what are those problems? Look, definitions are not always clear. That is a common kind of problem in definition, that often we come across several definitions, but those definitions are not always very clear. So it is a common problem of any definition, that they may not be always very clear. So if the definitions are not clear, then the concepts are not adequately defined. So we are applying definitions to designate the concepts. Now if the definitions are not very clear, then they cannot designate the concepts. So the concepts then remains inadequately defined, or the concepts are not adequately defined. Now what are the reasons for this inadequacy in definition, or the problems of definition? Look, concepts develop from a shared experience. I will take all this I mean, up one by one. So concepts basically develop from a shared experience, and this is a, I mean, source of problems in definition. Now the terms used to denote scientific concepts may also have meanings in other frames of references. So the terms we use to denote concepts in any science may have its meanings in other frames of references also. Now a term may refer to different phenomena, a single term may refer to different phenomena. We will definitely come across some examples of this, that a term referring to different phenomena or very different terms may refer to the same phenomena. Now a term may have no immediate empirical referent. So a term we are using may not have any immediate empirical referent. So that may be cause of problem in defining it, and the meaning of concepts may change over time and space. So that also creates trouble in defining it, because its meanings are changing in time and space. The problems in defining the concepts. So that way, let's take it I mean one by one, all these problems we will discuss one by one. So first, concepts develop from a shared experience. Shared experience means that those who are studying the concepts or the people at large, they might share some common experience, and this creates trouble in defining the concepts. What does it mean? Look, scientists or any expert develop concepts out of their shared experience which others may not understand. So a concept, I mean, being used by the scientists, maybe say some physical scientists, they are using certain concepts. Now others who are not experts in physical sciences, they may not understand those concepts. So we can trace very complicated concepts in natural sciences, physical sciences, social sciences, which the persons engaged in these sciences may understand, but those who are not well versed with the vocabulary of these sciences, they may not understand these concepts. So this is a problem, that a concept defined in one frame of reference may lose its meaning in other frame of reference, or the well versed with the grammar of those sciences, they might well understand the concepts they use, but when these concepts transcend to other fields, then people who are not well versed with the logic or grammar of those sciences may not understand those concepts. The same is true for translation also. Often we translate, but there is a basic problem in translation, that the text which is written in one context getting translated into some other context, or the person who has written the text in one context and the person who is translating it in some other context might have very different cultural, social and other settings. So the term which is used by the original author might not be properly translated. So this is the problem, because the author, who by using a concept is trying to mean something, and that meaning is linked to the context, cultural context of the author, but when it is getting translated by some other inhabiting some other cultural and social context, that particular meaning may not actually be carried over to the other cultures, because this is the problem, that the term has been developed in some context, and it is now getting translated, or it is now getting reinterpreted in some other context, and that way the meaning may not easily carry from one culture to the other. We can see one example. Look, German words Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft. In English, it means community and society. That means Gemeinschaft, the German word, refers to community, and the German word Gesellschaft in English, it refers to society. But the German words Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft, actually the sense which these two terms cater, do not convey the particular sociological meaning when it is getting translated into English. So Gemeinschaft might be translated to be community, and Gesellschaft might be translated as society, but what we mean by community and society, that meaning or the tidbits of that meaning, or the elements constituting that meanings might not actually be reflected in the original German words of Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft, because now the cultural social context in Germany in which these two terms have been developed, and the cultural social context in English speaking nations, and the way the term community and society is being used, or these terms are used in English speaking say regions, these two regions might have very different culture. So, the actual sense of the term Gemeinschaft may not get carried into the English translation of it, which is community. So, this is the problem, that if you define Gemeinschaft in Germany and then you are translating it into English as community, these two definitions may not imply the same sense. The same way, the gymnasium in Germany is a combination of high school and junior college, but we use it its education aspects. So, let us focus on the first problem in definition of a concept, and that relates to the issue of shared experience. Look, scientists or experts develop concepts out of their shared experience, which others may not understand. So, the scientists, they have developed certain concepts out of their shared experience. That means, the concepts which are used in sciences might be well understood by the scientists themselves, but when these concepts are say or when other people who are not well versed with the logic of those sciences encountered those concepts, they might not understand the implication of those concepts. Now, the same thing is always true for translation. Here we can have an example, like look, German words Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft, when these German words are translated in English, it implies, I mean Gemeinschaft implies community and Gesellschaft implies society. But this literal translation from Germany or from German to English may be done with some linguistic kind of I mean say parameters, but this translation, mere translation of the terms from German to English might not carry the sociological implications of the term community and society. So, these this translation or literary translation might not carry the sociological implications. That is the problem in definition of this of the concepts. The same way, the gymnasium again in Germany is a combination of high school and junior college. Gymnasium is a combination of high school and junior college in Germany. So, in Germany, gymnasium refers to this combination of high school and junior colleges, but when we use it, we often use it to mean only its physical education aspects. That means a place where we can engage in some sort of games and sports. So, that way it implies its physical educational aspects. So, the meaning gets transformed from a combination of junior colleges and schools to the physical educational aspects of this. So, that way the meaning actually do not carry while we translate. So, this creates trouble, because the term gymnasium is defined as in Germany as a combination of junior or high schools and junior colleges, but when we use it in other frame of references, it refers only to the term's physical education aspects. So, that creates trouble. Now, terms denoting scientific concepts, this is the second problem of definition of concepts, that terms denoting scientific concepts may also have meanings in other frames of references. So, the terms which we use to denote scientific concepts might have some implications, might have some meanings in other frames of references as well, and that can create confusion. Look, many words of science are in other contexts. Many words which we use in science or which are used in science might have some meaning in other contexts, in other frame of references as well. For example, a physics student. A student of physics should learn that mass does not mean a big pile of something. That is the meaning of mass in beyond physics, that mass represents something or a big pile of something, a large volume of something that constitutes mass in common parlance. But a student of physics must not get carried away by this meaning, because in physics mass implies something different. So, a physics student or a student of physics must learn that mass does not mean a big pile of something. Now, similar way, the term revolution is used in astronomy, we know, as well as in sociology and social anthropology, but with completely different meaning. The meaning of the term revolution in astronomy is not the same which we find in sociology or social anthropology or history. So, that way revolution is a concept, but it has some meaning in other frame of references as well. It has got its own meaning in astronomy, it has got a different meaning in sociology and social anthropology. So, these two meanings may completely differ. So, that creates again confusion in defining the term revolution. Now, the same is true for the term culture, because culture is defined and interpreted, reinterpreted in many different ways and with very different meaning. So, that also creates problem with the term culture, because the term has its meaning in other frame of references as well. Now, we are coming to the third problem of definition, that a term may refer to different phenomena. A single term might have or may refer to very different phenomena. Now, Robert Merton, famous sociologist Robert Merton, cites this example, and he cites this through the term function. Now, this term, a single term function imply quite a different thing. So, various meanings in common sense vocabulary. The term function has various meanings in common sense vocabulary. In sociology also it is used in a diverse sense. So, the term function is used in very different meanings in very different contexts. In socioeconomic analysis, it may refer to occupational phenomena, that means what a man does, that is the function of that particular individual. So, in socioeconomic analysis, function comes up with yet another meaning, that means what a man does or what a man performs, that might well be equated with the term function in socioeconomic analysis. And again in mathematics, it is again used in a very different way, that we often come up in mathematics with the famous expression y equals to function of x. That means y is caused by x, or y is the effect of x, or x produces y. That means here x is the independent variable and y is the dependent variable which depends on the changes in x. That means x produces y. So, here y is the effect and x is the cause. So, here function means effect, here function means consequences. So, y is the effect of x, y is the consequences of x, or y may be the result of x. So, again in mathematics the same term function is used in this different meaning. So, in sociology and social anthropology, function denotes the contribution of an element of society towards the continued existence of the society. So, then again in sociology it is used in a different way, that function refers to the contribution one element has to the maintenance of the or to the continuation of the whole system. So, I mean the whole social system. So, the say one institution is functional to the society, that means that the institution has some contribution to the continued existence of society. So, in sociology and social anthropology, same term function is meaning some contribution of the element or the part to the maintenance of the whole. So, that way function, the very single term function is referring to very different things in different frame of reference. So, this is the problem, that a single term may refer to different phenomena. Now, different terms, just the reverse, different terms may refer to the same phenomena. So, we might have very different terms, but all these terms may refer to a single same phenomena. Here again Merton argues, Robert Merton argues that often diverse terms may refer to a single concept, that to designate a single concept we might have very diverse terms, many terms, say for instance use, utility, purpose, motive, intention, aim, consequences used almost synonymously with function. So, when we try to designate or define the term function, we might have very different terms which refer to the single term function, or which mean the, or which imply the single term, single concept of function. Look, use may often used to imply the notion of function. Utility can well be equated with function, and purpose, motive, intention, aim, consequences, all which we have I have just discussed about consequences, result or effect, y equals to fx, or certain contribution of the parts towards the maintenance of the whole. So, this way consequences, contribution, effect, result, intention, aim, purposes, motive, these are all very different terms, but all these might imply the same concept function, and these different terms which refer to the same phenomena can create confusion, can create problems in defining the term or defining the concept precisely. So, often which we have seen in the last slide, that a single term may refer to different phenomena which can create problem in definition, and the reverse, that different terms may refer to the single concept or single phenomena, that again create trouble in defining the concept precisely. Now, we are coming to the next problem in definition, that a term may have no immediate empirical reference. A term which we are using to denote a concept, to designate a concept, may have no immediate empirical referent. That term might not have very close empirical evidence or some immediate empirical reference. That might well happen. Look, scientific theory often deals with things that have not been directly observed. So, often there are a plethora of theories in science, we know, that which deals with things which we cannot directly observe. So many things are there which we cannot directly observe, but that does not mean that things do not exist. So, the concept of social structure in sociology is like this, that there is a concept of social structure, we know what social structure is, but we cannot directly observe. That does not mean that since we cannot directly observe social structure, so social structure does not exist. Basically, social structure as a concept is there, but the concept of or the concept of social structure fails to find its immediate empirical reference. So, that is the problem. The structure of a group cannot be weighed by any common physical measuring instrument. We have different types of groups, maybe primary group, secondary group, or whatever, community, association, whatever group, human collectivities we have, but we do not have any particular measuring instrument to weigh or to measure that group. So, that does not mean that the group does not exist. So, the group is there, the concept of group is there, but this concept may not or often do not have its or their immediate empirical references. So, that creates problem of validation, that we cannot validate the concept with the reality, and that does not mean that the concept is redundant, or that does not mean that the concepts do not exist. So, that is the problem, that the concepts may not have its immediate empirical reference, but that does not nullify the concept. So, structure, basically whenever we are talking about social structure, we often refer to continuous patterned activity as the central characteristics of social structure. So, it is a sort of sheer patterned activity, continuously patterned activity, that constitutes social structure. That is a pattern, that whenever we come across any pattern out of anything, then we can designate that pattern to be the structure of that particular phenomena. But that pattern is yet once again is some abstraction as we observe it. So, that the pattern does not exist, we through our observation we abstract the pattern. So, that way the pattern might not have any immediate empirical reference. The empirical reference may be, say, a book, a laptop, a cell phone that exists in reality, but the concepts of the book, the concepts of the cell phone, the concepts of the laptop, that might not have any immediate empirical reference, because we abstract it from the reality. So the very process of conceptualization involves this abstraction, and that creates the trouble, that the concepts often might fail to find its very immediate close empirical reference, and that is the problem of definition of concept. So these, I mean, abstract, say, properties, or this abstraction through which we constitute the concepts might have very complex series of reference through other concepts. So we might define a concept through, I mean, several intermediate, or through several mediations, that we define a concept through other concepts, and that again makes the whole thing complicated, because since we do not have very immediate or close empirical references, so to designate the phenomena which are symbolically represented by those concepts, we try to use some other intervening or mediating concepts, and that creates the whole enterprise of defining the concept very difficult, because that we often try to define a concept through other concepts. Why we do this? Because often the concepts or the phenomena it tries to represent, the concepts might fail to have very immediate empirical reference, or very close, say, empirical evidences. So that way we try to define the phenomena, or we try to define the concepts which represent those phenomena through other concepts, and that makes the whole thing difficult. Now the meaning of concepts may change. That is yet another problems of defining a concept, that the concepts or the meaning which the concepts is trying to imply, that meaning might change over time or over space. Look, terms of science is continuously modified with advancement of knowledge. The terms which any particular science is using today might get changed tomorrow. That means with the passage of time, the meaning of the term which is used by any science might get changed, because time has passed on. So the way it was defined some 20 years back might not be the same which we are using. That means the meaning of the concept might change over time. So that is the problem, that the terms of science is continuously modified with advancement of knowledge. Since knowledge is advancing continuously, so the terms which constitutes that knowledge, and that terms, basically the meaning of that terms may change continuously. So that is the problem, that the way the concept was defined some time ago, or some say maybe 50 years back, that way, or the meaning of that term which stands today may change, because in between these 50 years have passed, and through these 50 years the meaning might change. So with the changing focus of science, the concepts also change meanings. That means it's not that only time has passed. Through time, focus of the science might also change. So the focus which the science had some 50 years back might not might not exist today. So with the change in the focus of the science, the concepts which the science used to use some time back might get changed today. So intelligence, for instance, was conceived by psychology as inherited and fairly stable intellectual potential. So psychology defined intelligence previously as something which is inherited and fairly stable. That means the level of intelligence one person is having is fairly stable, and he or she has inherited it. So it's a property which can be inherited and which is fairly stable intellectual potential. So intelligence referred to this fairly stable intellectual potential, and which can be inherited. This way psychology defined intelligence sometimes back, but at present it is merely the score made on certain type of test. Presently it is merely the score which one secure in IQ test, that means intelligence quotient. So that way intelligence, or the or the way we define intelligence or the way psychology defines intelligence today is quite different from what it used to do sometimes back. So, that leads, I mean these problems, these 5 problems leads to the more important issue of operational definition of concept, that how to rectify these problems or how to deal with these problems or how to remove these problems, so that we can come to a very definite definition of concepts, and that calls for operational definition. Look what operational definition is. Operational definition of a concept is the description of the concepts by implicating the, I mean operations, or by referring to the operations which are necessary to measure it. That means we are defining a concept through the operation through which we can measure it. That way we can come to an operational definition of concept. That means this is the definition of a concept through the operations which is required to measure that concept. Now, fact oriented sociologists often believe that it is possible. The sociologists who are factually oriented, who are fact oriented, they are of the opinion that yes, it is possible to define a concept through its operations. But theory oriented sociologists, they disagree. They do not believe that you can define a concept through the operations required to measure it or through the operations required observe it. So, they do not think that through the operations you can define a concept. So, there is a disagreement between fact oriented sociologists and theory oriented sociologists. Look, now the fact oriented sociologists believe that the concept social cohesion referred to a set of operations. The concept of social cohesion, that means the way the society is integrated or the society is united. Now, this social cohesion or the property which is named as social cohesion, fact oriented sociologists believe that this particular property of social cohesion can refer to a set of operations. That means how people are interacting among themselves, how intimate they are, how close they are, how often they meet together. So, this might be some kind of property or some operations. By observing on those, by observing or by measuring those, we can have some say idea of social cohesion. So, social cohesion can be defined by these operations through which we can measure it. Now, the opposition, I mean theory oriented sociologists claim that it is not possible. You cannot I mean define social cohesion through the intimacy among the people, through the say level of interaction among the people, or through the frequency of meeting of the people. You cannot define social cohesion through this. Theory oriented sociologists believe that this way you cannot define social cohesion, because we cannot directly observe or measure social cohesion, because you cannot directly observe or measure. Social cohesion is something which cannot be which is to be perceived. So, through defining a concept through the operations required to measure it, the theory oriented sociologists do not believe that it is possible, but the fact oriented sociologists believe that you can define a concept only through the operations which are necessary or which are required to measure that concept. Now, physical sciences we know put great emphasis on operational definition. In physical sciences, operational definitions run havoc. That means, physical sciences seriously and sincerely and with great source of enthusiasm, they rely on operational definitions, because physical sciences often rely on measurement. So, so the operations which facilitate this measurement, they all I mean use these operations to define the concepts, because it facilitates the process of measurement. Now, it is to be kept in mind that most concepts in these fields, I mean in the fields of physical sciences, refer to phenomena that are not measurable or visible to the naked eye. But in physical sciences also, the concepts of height, weight, mass, gravity, density, volume, the and some other concepts like these, they are always not measurable or visible to the naked eye. So, the problem is also there. So, operational definition of such concepts can provide a set of directions. Since the I mean, since these properties like the volume, density, mass, gravity, these properties often is not visible to the naked eye. So, operational definitions are the only way out, because only through those operations you can measure the density, you can measure volume, you can measure weight or mass. So, through these operations only you can conceptualize these concepts. So, in physical sciences, operational definitions are of tremendous importance. Since sociology is developing a commonly shared research operations, the importance of operational definition in it will also increase. Now, since sociology is also trying to increase the level of its scientificity, or increase the level of its objectivity, or increase the level of its generalizability. So, sociology is also trying to develop a commonly shared, say, group of concepts. So, I mean those concepts which can be understood easily by all in the same way. So, that way, that concepts sociologists are trying to develop, I mean group of concepts, bunch of concepts, a host of or plethora of concepts sociology is trying to develop, which is shared by all. That means the meaning of which is shared by all. So, in that way, sociology is trying to develop this plethora of concepts which can be understandable to all, or which others can understand in the same way the sociology is trying to define it. So, through this effort, sociology is trying to also, or is rather relying more on the development of operational definitions, because only this way moving, I mean through only operational definitions, sociology can offer certain concepts which can be, I mean defined in a kind of universal way. So, I mean people throughout the globe, or sociologists working in different corners of the globe, can use those concepts, can mean those concepts similar way, or in a same way. So, that way operational definitions can be considered to be an way out of the problems of definition of the concepts, although disagreements between fact oriented sociologists and theory oriented sociologists are there, and these disagreements would be there, but that does not prevent the, I mean intervention through which we can come, or through which we can gather even a more advanced level of knowledge. Thank you.